So this is an interesting story that happened on the last day of Jen Psaki. Now, Jen Psaki is Biden's press secretary, and she's been doing the job for almost 4.5 months. No, less, 4 months, and she's done. She's done serving her country, and now she's going to go make millions of dollars at MSNBC.
Only 4 months, really?
Well, when did he get inaugurated? January 25th.
Oh,
right,
wow.
or around there, right? Isn't that when the inauguration is? Or January 20th? I don't know. It's right. It's the end of January when they get inaugurated. And so February, March, April, middle of May. 3.5 months she's been this press secretary. Am I wrong about this?
I'm going to look.
Oh, no, this is 22.
Second year.
This is her second year. Okay. That's right. What the fuck?
Time flies, right, Jimmy?
God, I should not smoke pot before the show. But that's the fact that I shouldn't is not going to stop me. So she's been doing it for a year and 3 months. So 15 months she devoted herself to public work, public service, and now she's going to go be a multimillionaire celebrity over on MSNBC TV. Because that's why she did this, because she cares about people. She cares about the truth. That's why she's going to work for military industrial complex funded MSNBC, because she just got done working for military investment industrial complex funded administration, Joe Biden. So this was her last day, but something happened on her last day. A black guy from Africa wanted to ask a question because she hasn't called on him in 15 months. And what did she do? Ultra white Jen Psaki, she shushed him. You think I'm kidding? Let's watch.
Thank you, Jen. We wish you well. Hope you enjoy it.
Can I do one more thank you? Because my husband is here, and I think anybody who is married with kids knows that without a remarkable spouse, you would never be able to do it. I know many of you have kids. I'm just looking at Ashley, Ed, Mary, so many, MJ, and he has not only been a supporter, an advocate of mine, but he is an incredible partner and dad, and I wouldn't be here without him.
Oh, that's sweet. That was super. That was super sweet. That was nice. So now she calls on somebody in the front 2 rows, which is what she does. She always calls on people in the front 2 row, and the black guys from Africa are in the back row, and they never get called on. Here we go.
Go ahead. Now let's talk about serious issues. Go ahead.
Suggestion. Why don't you take questions from across the room?
So can you hear him? He's yelling in the back. Why don't you take question from the back row, from across the aisle, from across the room? Why don't you take questions ever? It's your last day, he starts saying. It's your last day. Why don't you have it be a good day? Why don't you break your normal routine and actually call on people from Africa?
Jen, I have a suggestion today for your last.
So now this guy's trying to ask his question because he's in the front 2 rows, so he's privileged, and he looks.
What's his question? Do you have any pictures of pets that you could show us? What kind of stupid?
Why don't the administration been aware of across the room? He suggested the administration been aware of the formula shortage for the past 15 months.
So and he said that's what you've been doing for the last 15 months. You've been ignoring us, and it starts to piss off these people.
Thank you. On the issue of the formula
Jen, can I ask you a question from the back?
Please stop.
He's like, Jen, can I ask you a question from the back? And she won't do it. She's still calling on a masked person.
I understand, but
Simon,
for 15
please
months,
show some on the issue of formula.
and I'm saying that.
And so she just yelled at him, please show some respect. Shut up, black man who never gets called on. There's a white woman of privilege who works for an American media corporation owned by billionaires, and we're in cahoots with this fucking administration, and we're going to ask the questions. Now, shut up, blackie.
Can't you see that a white woman with 2 first names and a mask is talking?
Here we go. It's Mary Bruce.
For the sake of equity, we should have
Thank you for your service, and thank your husband for his service as well.
Thank you for your service.
She's a reporter thanking the government liar for her service before she asks a question. That's not called doing journalism. That's called being an ass-kiss propagandist. There's a guy with a real question from Africa, and you're upset that he wants to ask a question while you compliment her and thank her for her service.
But they really ask the tough questions.
Boy.
Issue of formula. I think, if anything, this crisis has reminded everyone that this is
Simon,
not
if you could respect your colleagues and other media and reporters in here, that would be
she
greatly
knows his name.
appreciated.
Oh my God. It's like when Kanye West interrupted Taylor Swift's Grammy acceptance speech, isn't it? Excuse me, sir. I'm trying to hear how Jen Psaki has a great husband, not hear about your Africa problems. It's called the White House, not the African guy's problem house. Am I right? Excuse me, sir. This is Jen Psaki's day to say goodbye to her friends and then sign each other's yearbooks. So I'm going to need your life to matter a little more quietly towards the back of the room.
Go ahead, Mary.
If anything, this, sir, please, if anything, this has reminded, I think, the entire country.
Why not just let the guy ask a question? Why not just let the guy ask a question? Because he might ask you a question about Ethiopia and the fact that you're funding terrorists in Ethiopia, or the fact that you're bombing and killing people in Somalia, or the fact that you're committing a genocide in Yemen. Is this why you don't want to take the question? But you're supposed to be better than Trump. You're supposed to be better than Trump. The poster child for whiteness is now telling a black man from Africa to shut up and let a white woman of privilege with two first names ask a question from the front row.
Your colleagues. Am I a colleague, really?
World, that this is not a luxury item, but an essential. Thank you.
So, Sagar and Jetty, who is a right-winger, super on board for war with China. I know that. He had a response. He said, when I was in the WHCA, that's the White House Correspondents Association, people literally screamed like rabid banshees to get called on. Once, one even played audio of a crying migrant kids while an official was speaking. I don't remember any of them being threatened with expulsion, probably because they work for the mainstream news media. So they've been threatening this guy with expulsion. So he wrote this. He says, as I sit in that briefing room, this is the guy, Simon Ateba, or how do you say? Ateba. As I sit in that briefing room as the little guy, I understand why the world is in such a chaotic state, with 1% of the people controlling all the resources, while the majority of people wallow in hopelessness, drug addiction, homelessness, and hunger. And now the 1% of the people also control the conversation. They won't let that guy talk. And he's the bad guy. He's rude. He's rude because he won't let the government people talk. So he wrote, the true story is that of discrimination. That of looking down on some people, ignoring them, behaving as if they don't have anything to say, even when Africa is being discussed in the room. Huh. The true story is about perpetuating inequality, elevating some people over others, preaching equity loudly to the country, but practicing something different in the briefing room. It is a horrible story of open discrimination, and I just want her to be different on her last day. To take questions from across the room, to give a voice to the people she did not call on for 15 months, to be good on her final day. I just wanted to provide a suggestion, but I was shut out once again, sadly. Have that in mind as you read what they are writing about me and about her. Didn't call on this guy for 15 months, even during discussions about Africa. Because Black Lives Matter, just not their questions. I guess Black Lives Matter, but not their questions. Is that what Jen Psaki's saying? Jen was all uncomfortable. Hey, Kamala, could you come out and giggle at this guy until he goes away? In an email to Ateba, obtained by Mediaite, White House Correspondents Association president and CBS News Radio White House correspondent Stephen Portnoy, who is now my new favorite POS, Stephen Portnoy chided him on Monday for the interruptions. I'm going to guess Stephen Portnoy's white. Your disruptive behavior at last Friday's briefing interrupted your colleagues and reflected poorly on the press corps. What? So the press corps is now a Boy Scout organization that prides itself on manners? And you wonder why there was no fucking journalism in this country?
We were about to sing happy birthday to Jen Psaki and you ruined it.
Your attempts to do journalism reflected poorly on the press corps. This is a press briefing, not a rap contest. Access is privilege, not a right. There is no right of any reporter to be called on by any official. It's a privilege. Preventing your colleagues from asking their questions is no way to seek relief.
They asked questions. I thought they just announced, gave compliments. It was like compliment day.
It was compliment day. They were thanking her for her service day. We note that you have been, this is in his letter, that guy, Stephen Portnoy. We note that you have been granted status as an associate member of our organization. With that comes a responsibility to act in a collegial manner with your fellow White House Correspondents Association members. If you again demonstrate disrespect for your colleagues in the manner you did last Friday, the WHCA board will act on behalf of the collective. And meaning we're going to give you a Julian Assange. I'm pasting Article 10 of our bylaws below for your reference. What's that, Kurt?
What are they going to do to him? Not call on him more?
Right? They won't let him in the press room. That's what they won't do. They won't let him in the press room. Isn't that amazing?
I'm amazed. I got to start reading African news because that's apparently where actual journalists are.
That's where the journalists are. Because none of those other and I just want to show you, this was completely acceptable when Trump was president. This kind of stuff.
Well, if you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
And why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants
in
this election to try to keep them?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, you know what?
Away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings
would
be
be
much better.
If I may ask another question, Mr. President.
So now he gave him, I don't know, I gave him a lot of time. He asked 2 or 3 or 4 questions right there, and he won't go away. He's getting the microphone. He's allowed to ask questions. He just had a serious engagement with the president of the free world. He just got his turn, and now he won't give it up to someone else.
I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
Look what he's doing. He's fighting. He's fighting with the intern who's supposed to be passing the microphone around to their colleagues. But everyone loved this.
That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything.
He gets another
with
question.
The Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
How many goddamn questions does he get to ask? You're supposed to ask 2 questions. That's the most, and move on as a being collegial. He just asked like 4 fucking questions. And he wanted to keep going, and he wouldn't give up the mic. That's all okay, because Trump, so it's bad when someone else does it, like a black African, but it's okay when a white Jim Acosta does it, because we don't like Trump. Do you see why people hate fucking the liberals in this country? Do you see why people have disgust for them? Because I do. Here it goes. There's more. So now he passes it off to this jagoff, and watch this.
You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his
Well, I'm
butt
not a
like
big
the rest
fan
of
of.
them.
So then he hands it off to this guy, and this guy starts to defend his unbelievable rude behavior. So again, when it's a white guy from CNN, everybody applauds it and they thank him for doing it. But when it's a black guy from Africa, he's going to get kicked out of the club. And you're telling me Tucker Carlson's the problem, right? Okay, I got you. Anything you like to say, Kurt?
I don't know. I'm really shocked that when you stack it up, Trump was kinder to Jim Acosta than Jen Psaki is to African reporters.
Trump let Jim Acosta ask 4 questions. Jen Psaki didn't let the black guy from Africa ask 1 question. She kept telling him to shut up.
He couldn't ask 1 legitimate question, and Jim Acosta got to ask about
4
the Russian
bullshit
nonsense
questions.
that went nowhere. Are you worried about the thing that's going to turn out to not be real?
Are you worried about the fake Russiagate scandal? Now you know why the country's in the place it is. Now you know why my show is popular, because there's a lot of people who, half the country doesn't want to point this out. Half the country wants you to be just as phony as the people they accuse of being phonies.
How is that a useful question, by the way?
None of it was.
Are you worried about the Russia investigation?
That was grandstanding.
What do I get from that? Either right? Any answer he gives.
And then I asked Trump if he was worried.
Jen Psaki, I have a question. Do you have a great husband? We'd all like to know.
Hey, I'm on tour. Come see me in Irvine, California, Las Vegas, Indianapolis, Salt Lake City, Washington. Washington? You mean Washington State?
Yes.
Yes. Go to JimmyDoreComedy.com for a link for all those tickets.